Hello, everyone. Welcome. Hello, everyone, and welcome to. I guess we're calling this the Cap Gun Podcast. I don't know what this is. Justin and I are just doing
Pod
this.
Guncast.
Amazing.
Cap Fun
So-
Productions.
Uh,
Hello, everyone. My name is Justin, and this guy's Cameron.
Yes. So this is being released early January. We're recording this a little bit ahead of time, as one does, a little bit. But what is this? This is like a podcast thing for random reasons. So for the next couple of weeks, during the campaign, of course, we're gonna be doing a couple of episodes with separate members. And like this will be a platform for us to talk about movies, either movies we've watched, movies we've made, projects we've made. It's just like kind of a fun thing for us to do, and for you to kind of go, hey, this is cool, and like you're not waiting for content for months because we're in the middle of production, right? So yeah, Justin, I think we should start with you.
Me.
Give yourself
What's
a little
there
bit
to
of an
say
intro.
about little Justin?
Yeah. What is there to say about little Justin?
Well, little Justin. Okay, so hello, everyone. My name is Justin. I am a writer, director, voice actor, other things. Primary project I've worked on over the years prior to Capcom Productions is on the YouTube channel Animation Epic. I work on an animated web series called Inanimate Insanity, a survivor-style reality show with a bunch of cute little objects added to compete, which I run with a few friends, and that's been a huge production of mine where I have been doing writing, directing, voice acting, audio editing, all the goofy fun stuff. And then I came across Cameron out in the world, out in the wild. Who's to say how? But
Mutual friends. It's called mutual friends.
let's call them mutual friends. And what had happened was he saw that I did filmy things. He did filmy things, and a connection was born.
Wow.
So now I'm at Capgun doing some. I do some supervising for the American team, working on my own separate project. It's a little hush hush right now, but a lot of
Well, at this point, it's already out by the time we release this.
Who's to say if my name's even on it?
That's
There's
also
lots of-
true.
There's a lot to work out there. But if you're watching the podcast, you want the inside scoop anyway. So
Of course. Well, we'll talk about Danny in a bit. I know you're still in the early stages on your end right now. I know I'm wrapping up the
yes.
Guardians, or I'm in the middle of editing Guardians. We actually just have a first cut of Guardians today, which Justin hasn't seen. I'm going to send to him later.
Yes.
But yeah, we'll talk about that in a bit. Yeah, I mean, Justin started out as a he was pitched to me as a guy that does the movie things by our mutual friend, and went, I don't know if I should introduce you to him, and
And I still say the same thing. I don't know. I don't know if we should have, but but here we are.
but so I needed someone to work on set for Stuck in the Woods, which is out on the YouTube channel already.
I held a big poll all day. I was so excited. I quit doing audio in college like several years prior to then, but
Yeah.
because I was like, not my field, and then Cameron's like, it's your field again.
And then basically after that, I was like, oh wow, he's cool, and we worked on Slowly Separating together, which is out, coming out in a few weeks. Actually, it's during the campaign, so we can kind of give a little precursor to that as well today. And then we just started working on stuff together, all sorts of projects, and Stuck in the City as well, which is also coming out in a bit. And just like kept working together, and it's been fun. And then when I pitched the idea of building out Capgun, going to a bigger, better thing with more people in a group, Justin, of course, was the first person on my list, and he said
Thank
yes.
you, Cameron.
And I'm super excited about it. So yeah.
You brought up Guardians, which would be coming out around this time.
Yeah.
How has production been like? I haven't actually been able to hear much about set life.
Set life was a lot. So
Yeah.
we shot it mid-October, so almost a month now. We're at the point where we first got done, but it was 4 long days in Berlin. So for those of you that don't know, I live outside of Berlin-Potsdam. I've lived in Germany for about a year now, as the time of the recording. That's why we do have a German team with Eden as one of our, as of right now, our main like artist out here with along with myself. But I had come out with this concept back in December of 2018 to try to learn about Berlin more. And the main thing you need to learn about Berlin is that it has many districts. And so it has shrunk over the years. There were at one point 20 something. Now there's only 12. But so basically, what I said is, all right, well, let's put that concept together and make it like a Game of Thrones style, like mafia type of thing, where each district is run by a guardian. And I started to learn about Berlin, just to learn about Berlin. I started writing it, and people that I was around in Germany were like, wow, this is really cool. And then I sent it to Justin. He seemed to really enjoy it as well. We worked on it for a bit, and then we went into production. It was stressful, for sure. Long days, we were sticking to that 10 hours for sure. But it was so invigorating to go back on set again, to be able to make, stuff again. And I worked with a really cool DP. His name is Tim Strecker, who I had the pleasure of working with this time around. Dude's like freaking massive. He's like 6'8". Like,
Gosh, I wish that were me.
I literally like I'm 6'3", and I looks and like I'm usually the small one in the room, the large one in the room. I'm sorry, the large one in the room. No, I'm the small one. I'm always the one that's tiny.
I just kind of I fit neatly in a corner during film recordings. Whenever I don't want to be seen, like I just blend in.
So yeah, so it was an experience working with him, working with people that I had worked with before, because it was a whole new team. But it was great. I had a blast being back on set again. I really missed it, because the last thing I'd shot was back in March. And so being able to go back into production there was super nice. Well, that's actually, I shot something in August, but but
You're
going
always
back into
doing something, and that's one of my favorite things about you.
Thank you.
Always,
It's really stressful sometimes trying to get things done. No.
Yeah, but most people just don't put in the effort in the first place, and that is, I feel like, the downfall of the majority of new artists. And it's like, well, everything I'm gonna do is in theory, and
Sure.
I'm gonna maybe I'll dabble in a script that gets one pass, and then it's like,
Right.
well, I did a thing, or production never comes to be. But being prolific, I feel like, especially in this day and age, is especially fascinating and exciting and valuable, because
For sure.
you also have a lot of people that just work on like a single dream project for years and years, and maybe it gets done.
We know people who do that.
You get projects done, and
Thank you.
and they get better and better and better, and they say quality over quantity often, and I agree with that to an extent, but the quantity is what helps you improve.
What's the 10,000 hours concept?
Probably that. What?
Okay, so you definitely know what it is. A 10,000 hours concept is that you have to work on something for 10,000 hours until you're a professional.
Okay. Would this apply to any profession?
Yeah. The
Okay,
theory
yeah,
is
that
that
makes sense, that
you
makes
work
sense.
10,000 hours on anything. So 10,000 hours on directing, 10,000 hours on writing. And that was actually one of the main things this time around that I felt I improved the most on, was working with actors.
Yeah.
Is talking with actors, knowing when I need to talk to them. Like I'm always improving, and I was talking with Logan a couple weeks back on it. Logan is a mutual friend of ours who we've worked with in the past. He runs Black
Yeah.
Wolves, one of our like very closely knit people that I mean, I love working with them, and Logan and I are working on like
best.
3 projects at once together. But working with actors, talking about notes, going through the scene with them, like kind of that kind of stuff. The more I've worked my way away from the camera and from other things, I've been able to focus more on that, and that makes me feel really good. Is to be able to go, all right, so I know what I'm doing with actors, I know what I'm doing with that, and it made me feel more productive on set.
Here's a fun question then.
Yeah.
Can you recall things that you've done in the past that you would now call mistakes when directing actors, that maybe you didn't recognize them as mistakes at the time, since you've noted that you felt like you've now improved on that?
I can think of a one off the top of my head, and the main one was something that I learned from Der Weg Karlsruhe shot in August, which was the first short that I did in German, to Guardians. Because that was a note that I got from my DP there, Mike, who basically said to me, dude, the first thing you got to do is talk with actors. Like, don't go to camera, don't go to anyone else. Go to the actors first. And even if you say, give me a second, I need to check camera, just go to them first. You know, what I always forget is out of all the people on set, the director has the vision, but his main person on set is the actors. Like those are the people that he needs to work with the most. And that's the people that he needs to be met with, right? He needs to be met with his producer, with his script supervisor a bit, right? There's a little bit of scripty in there. There's a little bit of a lot of the DP in there. But if you are a good DP, you should have already had conversations about style ahead of time. Right? Tim and I went at nauseum. We worked on it for weeks. We spent 5 hours working on a LUT. Like the way that Guardians looks, like that wasn't like the color scheme of it. That wasn't by accident, right? We worked on around 15 different LUTs and brought it down to like 2 that we used in the end, right? And so that stuff was all ahead of time. That wasn't on set. So when we were on set, Tim already had his gear. Tim already had the rentals ready to go. Tim already
had the
van.
There's something very alive about the actor performance, on the other hand.
Right. 100%. And we did rehearsals with actors, but it's still something different. And so, you know, and I think like House Sitters or like some of the other projects that I've worked on as a lot more focused on camera. Stuck in the City, I think, is a great example of that. Was a project where I DP'd. And that's the main thing why I, you know, as much as I loved working on Stuck in the City and as much as I loved the workflow that we had, it brought me back to one of the main reasons why I didn't want to DP anymore, which was I didn't have time to work on the things that I wanted to.
Right.
And especially in the age of COVID where, you know, everyone's wearing masks and the actors are really the only ones not wearing masks on set, it gets frustrating.
Right.
It's, you know, and you're stressing out and everyone's just restless and everyone's, you know, a bit, you know, pushy and trying to get things done, especially since they're on low budgets. Like, I know people working on studio who get tested 4 times a week.
There's something very valuable about time in the age of COVID, I noticed.
Yeah.
Like, you can't spend as much time as you want to just doing whatever you want. So whenever you do have the time to do things or are able to actually get onto a set, everything is dialed up to 10 because this is your one shot in a while to do something
For
huge
sure.
and big and exciting. So I totally get where the stress is coming from.
I mean, especially for Guardians, you know, in Germany, a risk area is something considered 50 cases per 100,000, so around 0.5% of the population having COVID.
Yeah.
We came in at a time when Berlin was around, like, at the worst case was around 100. Right? Most places there were more around 75, 80-ish. But, you know, so all of Berlin had become a risk area at this point. And 2 weeks later, so at the beginning of November, we went into a lockdown, another partial lockdown. So knowing that, it was very stressful for me, at least, going in there going, oh, shit. Like, I need to, like, there was no, like, no outside of set, like, shenanigans.
Of course, yeah.
Right?
Of course.
I literally came to set and left set and stayed in the same place for the rest of the time. Right? I stayed at my AD Felix's house. That was it. Right?
Right.
And so, like, you know, but I feel like, you know, especially, like, when I go back to House Sitters, which was a 2-day shoot, right? It was, like, afterwards, there was a lot of hanging out. There's a lot of doing things. Like especially, like, after, you know, we wrapped. You know, it was we shot the end at my place and in the States, and we all just hung out there and were drinking and eating dinner and all that stuff. That didn't exist here. Like, we had lunch, but, like, people just kind of went when they could, right? I think we only had one actual, like, meal for Guardians.
That's
where we sat down and all
crazy to
ate
think about
together. Everything else was we had sandwiches set up, just grab a sandwich, take a 5-minute break, that's it. Right? That was a budget thing, but it was mostly a, you know, or else it would have had to have been like you in this. It's like when I talk to friends who are down in Atlanta right now, they stagger lunches. Right, this crew goes into the lunchroom at this and this time. Which takes so much time. So like I don't, it's hard. And so that's like the main thing for me is like, okay, well, shoot, we don't have that luxury. And so like, I'd love to hear your opinion because I know Danny is not a show that you're doing.
So that's what I was gonna get at
people.
in that I'm very, very fascinated by everything you have to say on this subject because I come from a world of remote production, and that has always been the case for me. So, I mean, since I was 11 years old, the first thing I did in terms of any real production is I'm voice acting on the internet, and that's I guess discounting hanging out with friends with a camera and just kind of at nothing. But but the interesting thing there is you really don't feel the weight of COVID. It's a completely different world. I'm an introverted guy. I like my quiet time. Things being on lockdown has been an impact on my life, especially when it comes to like big plans. But in terms of everyday life, one step at a time, just
it must
the
not affect you
normal
as
going
much as it
about
did
of every
me.
day. Things have been relatively the same. I had a job that switched to remote. That's about it. And if anything, that was a bit of a convenience. So I feel very fortunate because I'm sure I'm in a very small percentage of people who have had a less negative experience, despite the flood of negativity that has befallen us. But in terms of production, it is very much I'm going to reach out to people, and the collaborative experience still remains the same. I'm still able to reach out to people in the same way. I'm still able to call people because I'll do scripting sessions online, and there's like Writers Duet where you can do all the formatting in a collaborative setting. There, same thing with voice acting. It's still all the same remote. I use as professional a setup as I can, and it has come to production has been roughly as smooth as ever. But then there's also the consideration of in the YouTube sphere, there's the very fortunate quality of it seems like in a vague general sense, to at least a slight degree, people have a little bit more free time, so viewership has been a little bit better as well. Like it's fascinating how you get these little silver linings.
I think in this industry, we love talking about the humanity of filmmaking and the artistry and the creativity, but in the end, it's still a business.
Right.
Like, I think and running a production company really put that in perspective because I have had to take a much of a more producer business role, especially with like with your show, with Mitchell's show, like with Keely's show. It's just like, whoa, this is not I get to have fun creative. Like it is all work, no play. For me, I mean, yes, it's a lot of play. Like, I still get to have fun, but you know what I mean, right? In comparison to like Guardians, like in Guardians, it's like it's my baby. Right. Like it's my thing. I get to play with it. I get to have fun with it. Like I'm molding it myself, and it's fun. Da 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 da. But like with Danny, it's like it's yours. Like this is for you. This is all your fun. And but yeah, I do want to know though. Yeah, you and Danny. Yeah. I do want to know because you were on Mitchell's set, and we'll talk to Mitchell.
Yes.
But like. He's gonna have a very different perspective than you do, right? Because
totally, and I was on Mitchell's first set,
nice.
And it was the full COVID experience, right? And it's so weird having to stay so spread out, in a setting that I really consider to be a bit of a familial setting. It's a business still, but a really good team feels a little like a family,
For sure.
Mitchell was incredibly professional about keeping everyone as super safe as possible.
As for sure, as
But
he should, and he's a great guy about that.
even with that, I mean, you get the right people and they stay in good spirits, and
Right.
that is such an alleviating factor to production. So we had a good team for that, definitely.
For sure.
I want
But you noticed it. You noticed the COVID.
yeah. Oh,
Basically.
absolutely. Yes, yes, yes. The moment you step outside of your house, COVID is there. Right?
Right.
And
That's fair.
there's no escaping that. I'd love for that to go away.
Cause like the main thing, cause I've done 2 projects now under COVID, and the first one, like, cases were really far down, so we didn't even really talk about masks at that point, right? Like, cases were like few and far this was like back in August, right? And August in Germany was like, we had maybe a few hundred cases a day in all of Germany. Like, I think we were like, Potsdam was like maybe 3 cases a day, a week. I mean, 3 cases a week. So we were not really talking about it being this big, thing. But then it just spiraled out of control as
Yeah.
it as we had a second wave. And for us, it's just like, well, damn. So that's why I got very strict on that. I basically was like, you have to make sure that everyone is in compliance and all that stuff. And so I think it's mainly what we've seen is this new normal of mask wearing, which I don't think is going to go away for a bit. But at least it doesn't hinder us from working, right? I think that's the main thing. Is the main concern that I had was we're not going to be able to work.
And honestly, I'm sure that has deterred some people, and I think there is
Right.
a determination to production that is essential in these times in particular. You have to put in the effort to make a production work now, and that's why keep wanting to ask you more about it, because it has to take a very focused degree on top of a whole lot of other responsibilities.
Yeah, I mean, the we had a lot of, like, I think Guardians. The funny thing now, funny hindsight being 2020 and it being in the past.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about of Guardians was how wrong everything went.
Yeah. Well, now you're setting up for storytelling. Let's hear all
We
about
have
it.
so many. I mean,
I'm excited.
Uh,
That's how I show it.
like, starting on the somber note, like, our main associate producer who had been my rock, basically her father passed like 2 days before shooting,
It's terrible.
and she couldn't come to set because she went back to Turkey to the funeral.
Yeah. No. And yeah.
Oh, that wasn't fun.
That flips.
And
That's,
she had been
that
she
flips
had been
things
my
around.
main rock for like most of this project, and it was tough.
I'll mail you a rock. It'll be okay.
It was just like a mess, and so like everything, and she had taken on a good amount of work, and so everything had to be distributed, and some of it went to me, and I stressed out because like now all this stuff's been put onto me that I didn't really want. On top of that, we so for the first time we had a van. Like, we rented a van.
Yeah.
I was so excited. It was great. But like the van that we were gonna rent didn't like happen. Like, the guy just didn't message us back for 3 days, so we had to rent another van, which drove up costs. And then then we had to do the rentals, and then so I came to Berlin on Friday, and on Saturday we already started with shooting. So like getting everything together. Day one was just sorry.
I was just gonna ask, how many bikes with baskets in them do you need to make up for the lack of one van?
I don't think we had enough crew members to do that.
Okay,
we had a lot.
so you also need to hire people. That might cost money. But like,
It was a lot. We had a lot on set. Lights. We had. We used the dolly for some of this stuff. Like, a slider. I'm sorry. We used a slider.
Right.
To have like some of the movements, especially in the cafe scene, and like the opening of the movie where the end, like it pans out, like that's all on a slider. So all that stuff was rented, and so we needed a van for that, because cars aren't as big of a thing here as they are back stateside. So not everyone, like, with House Studios, for example, we had, I think, 3 cars on set at all times, so we could just store everything in there.
Of course.
But we had
That's
so much
easy.
gear that it just didn't work out that way. And so yeah, but Saturday was all interiors. We fell behind schedule, but that was fine. We didn't go that much over. Sunday was the terrible day. We did the whole opening of episode 2, which hasn't come out yet as of this, but it's the
Right.
big scene. It's a big, like, westernish confrontational scene
I'm very excited for that one.
between. It looks so good. That's the best part about it is the editor who is working on it, like, he's nailing it. But anyway, it was like that day was long. Like, we were in the middle of a quiet street, and for some reason, like, I'd come back there and it was absolutely silent. But on that day, like, a car drove by every 5 seconds. Like, it was just like noise galore. And then, like, all of a sudden it starts to, like, rain a bit, and it's like, okay, we can keep shooting, and all of a sudden it just starts to downpour. And by this point I'm just exhausted, and, like, I'm trying to get things done, and I'm just like, I can't. Oh my god. So that scene turned from going till like we were supposed to shoot from noon to 5, I think, for 5 hours for a 3-page scene, which I knew was going to take longer because the blocking was so extensive. To we basically, like, ran from one location to the next, so we were there till like 6:30. And I had gotten there at 10 to rehearse with the actors.
Right.
So, like, we were already long. Then, of course, we did the opening that night, where I got to act. I played I played Rich, the body.
Perfect.
So we're there on the wet ground, like, it's raining. Like, it had rained, so, like, it was wet and dirty, and there was, like, fake blood over me, and I'm just like, Jesus.
So we both played dead bodies by this point.
Yes.
we both been there. How do you keep up
yeah.
energy in those kinds of situations?
Having a freaking meal.
Helps. I have to tell you to do that often.
Oh yeah, this was the first shoot where I actually had regular, like, meals for, like, days 3 and 4. I started eating, but it was hard. Some of the, like, the end of day 2 was hard. Like, we got to the point where it was, like, just dead. But and then all of a sudden a bunch of, like, homeless people show up,
As
and I'm
they
just
do.
like, and our DP was like, I'm done. I can't. Like, we got, like, some final coverage, and then we just moved on with it. It was a mess. Day 3 was the shortest one. We shot the end of episode 1, and the audio is good. Like, I love the audio one turned out good, but, like, it was nonstop cars under tunnels. So
So a lot of work needs to be done there.
work needs to be done there. Although it's still like, it sounds good. Like, right now, like, we still need to work on it, but, like, it was like it was the mental psyche thing for me. Like, I didn't drink enough. I didn't do enough. Like, I didn't drink
Believe
enough.
me,
And it was
you
loud.
need
And I
a
had my
big
mask
drink
on.
before shooting.
Especially with the mask, and the mask would trap all the moisture. So
Right.
by the end of the day, my mask would just be, like, soaking wet.
So you have a mop instead.
Basically,
Does
A
that
mop on my
protect
face.
more or less, you think?
I don't know. I think less technically.
Really? You think that, like, I don't know, some moisture would just block any germs? But
Germ
maybe it
squad,
accelerates.
Germ squad.
Germ squad.
So yeah, that was a mess. Like, it was like, there was a point where I had to sit down for like 5 minutes. Like, guys, I have a migraine. Like, I need to sit.
Yeah.
And then day 4, we had a scheduling, like, mishap, and we almost ran out of time. Like, I think we have all the coverage, but it became a shit show. Just getting everything done. So, like, it was just the one thing after another was just, like, this one was on my toes. Like, you have shoots where, like, I think, Stuck in the City was somewhat similar, although not as similar. I think the ending of Stuck in the City, when we were running out of light, like, that part, when the camera broke down, I think it was Bryant Park, and so we're shooting this thing, like way past it, and, like, we have to get things done. And then compared to like Words in the Air, for example, which was
Right.
a very smooth shoot except for the ending. Slowly Separating, no, you weren't on Slowly Separating, but that was a smooth shoot. We got 16 pages on 8 hours.
That's
Um,
crazy.
That was
Well,
a
I mean,
crazy one.
there's, I guess visually the toughest thing is getting the walking right on that one, right?
Yeah.
Because
For Slowly
otherwise
Separating,
it
yeah.
is a lot of just conversing. And
The thing
you
about
got-
Slowly
when you got- when
Separating
you got
was
some
the
good professional
weather, the
actors.
cold.
Yeah.
It was super cold that day. It was freezing, to the point where we had actors like taking breaks, but we just powered through it. And I wouldn't say that our Guardians, the actors weren't professional. It's just like, just all the outside stuff was just not working with us. And that was stressful, and that was, hard, and we were
I feel
being
like
ambitious.
Germany shooting has been just less fair to you than the American shooting. Maybe
David
the,
Krause was
the challenge
David
helps you
Krause.
grow.
Oh, for sure. David Krause, I think. Well, David Krause was also a mess in other ways. But there we had different. I think that was like, David Krause was very much like House Sitters in the degree of like complexity,
Right.
like the issues. Like I feel like when we shot House Sitters, like we didn't have like major, like we had a lot of issues, like as you always do.
Yep.
But like I feel like we plowed through them. With Guardians, it was just like nothing was working. We were fighting it. Like we were fighting this beast, and in the end, I was absolutely exhausted. I look back on it, I'm like, wow, we still got a good thing out of it, but it's still like, you know how it is. It's just like,
So it's like it's so valuable to have people who are really good at quick adjustment of being adaptive on set
Right.
to whatever's gonna go wrong, because you could only do so much to minimize whatever problems you're gonna have. You don't have perfect foresight.
Yeah.
You kind of just have to expect bad things to happen. But to have people on set who are just gonna kind of roll with it and be problem solvers, that's a huge deal that I feel like
That
I don't come
100% I
across
feel-
enough.
it comes with experience, though. Like I think coming back to
Yeah.
your point of like, for those that don't do it, don't get anything done. Like, the main thing that I always say is your first movies are gonna be trash.
Yeah, your
Like,
last
you
ones
gotta
probably
plow
will
through
be
those.
too, but like less try.
It gets gets better and better over time, and but I still look at things, I still look at like Slowly Separating. We shot what back in 2019, like almost 2 years ago now.
Yeah.
And I go back and I'm like, wow, there's an issue there. There's like all the issues that exist. And I'm like, no. But you could learn to live with it, and you learn to love and you learn to grow. Like that's the main thing. It's like you learn to know what it was at the time, to improve on it and go, all right, let's go.
There, something that always interesting.
I don't know if that
me-
makes sense.
No, no, it does make sense. And piggybacking off of it, I feel like there's a wide perception that you need perfection in art, and it's a bit nonsense. Just in that, I do think that the imperfections in art are what give it so much life. And
Sure.
knowing what could have been done differently can be seen as a positive on simply an artistic level, and I'd rather connect with something than see something that is just flawless, like whatever that means.
I think the other thing is, and I've made this point a couple of times, and I know we've had a discussion about it, both like basically in public, and I know I started a Twitter thread about this at some point a couple months back. You're always like at every stage is going to be heartbreak.
A little bit, yeah.
Like when you're done writing it, there's going to be a heartbreak because like someone's not going to like it, or like this thing isn't going to work, or like that. In pre-production, there's going to be a heartbreak because the one thing that you wanted to do didn't work. In production, there's going to be a heartbreak. In a post, there's going to be a heartbreak.
So
Like,
how
it
do you
just happens.
How do you survive the heartbreak, Cam?
How do I survive the heartbreak? I don't know if I do.
We
Like,
were
that
seeing,
sounds really
we were,
stupid.
we were seeing the ghost of Cameron right here. He did not survive the heartbreak. It shattered, and this is his new form.
Like, in all honesty, right? It's like, I don't. I feel like it just becomes like a layer in my like in my life.
There's
Like if
yeah.
that makes like ogres have layers. Like I just put like I'm like an onion. I just grow a new layer,
People say it's
and it's
sometimes
like
yeah. Go ahead.
you learn from it, and you it like it. That's what makes it special, right? And that's
Right.
what makes this industry like, especially because I am in this regard a perfectionist. Not always, but in this regard I am. So like yeah, that's what I would say.
It reminds me of the notion that dating perhaps gets more difficult as you get older because both people coming into the relationship just are carrying on their backs just tons and tons of baggage from
Right.
prior relationships. You think you have a clean slate, but you're bringing in
It's
all
never a clean
this
slate.
nonsense. But you
Well, I
know,
think that comes in with life. You
yeah,
know.
and maybe yeah, I guess it's in all stages. But a lot of it just comes down to how much you let affect you and how much
Right.
you are able to just grow from in whatever positive ways you can take away from it, and
For
that's
sure.
a huge deal. And that but you have to be actively mindful of that.
100%. 100%. Does that I don't know. So like animation sphere, does that ever happen a lot, or like is it usually a lot more conceptually plausible for you?
Yeah, animation is a really fun world because, especially when you take the difference of production on both ends into account of animation and live action, animation has this neat quality where, in theory, you could craft exactly what's it in your head. On set, you're in person with a lot of people. There's so many factors that you can't control. You can't control exactly how the camera's going to move. You can't control exactly how the performances are going to go. And to an extent, that exists in animation with voice acting. You don't exactly know, but in terms of, especially in a visual sense, it is very maintainable to that degree. That said, I think a lot of it comes down. The heartbreaks come from collaboration to some degree, right?
Mm.
It's what you're working on a script with a few people, and one then they don't like one of your ideas, a darling, and you scrap it. Or you mentioned earlier a critic after something comes out, and you can have a mini heartbreak there. But I do legitimately think that the more isolated you are on a production, the more easily able you are to avoid a heartbreak. I mean, and that makes sense. If you're
Yeah.
applying a heartbreak to like a relationship, you can't get your heartbreak broken if you don't try. But there are so many amazing qualities to collaboration. So it's a give and take. It's a risk, right? But
Right.
usually it heeds very good results. But you just have to
For
be
sure.
open to the concept that not everyone's going to be on the 100 exact same page. But again, if you put yourself out there and you're willing to work with other creatives, it could culminate into something beautiful artistically.
I think no matter what, it always culminates into something amazing and beautiful
Yeah.
and fun. And I think it's always a memory. I feel like it what drives you. I don't know about you, but whenever I leave, like whenever it's the last day of set, like I might be exhausted and dead, but I turn around and go, "When's the next day?" I think I made that comment a few times, and I know we've had some long, grueling days, and especially after you like night shoots. Boy, are they not fun! Like I do not recommend night shoots, but I still came off that shoot going, "Oh wow, let's do it again." Because like you're in that mode and you love it, and even if you're not ready, you're ready and you're like ready to go, and you need to that's why embarking on like when we talk about bigger projects, some features that were in back mine country,
Right.
it's like how do we get 2 weeks of shooting done? Like the biggest I've been is a 4. Like as a director, like I have been on set for a 5-day shoot, but like the biggest on like for directing wise was 4. And
And
it's like it's gonna be tough to do 4 like to do like 12, 13 days with like a day break in between.
so, I mean, we've talked about this in concept. It's like if you're going to go through that process, which is a very involved process, which is going to shape how you feel over those few days. And that, that's a big chunk of time right there. And it's going to culminate as the days go on. You better love what you're doing. You better love that
100%.
production. I mean, unless you're getting paid plenty. I mean, in some cases you can't help it. You just need to have a job. But if you're in a position to help it, because
For
you,
sure.
you want to make it as good for yourself and for the people working on the project as possible. Because if you can get them excited about what the project is, that's gonna heighten set life tremendously. That is
100%.
so important. I mean,
100%.
it's the total flip argument of the one I was making earlier, where I was saying, quantity over quality to some degree, but quality. If you have the moments to fine tune, you gotta go for it.
I think it's both.
Especially for a big production like this. But yeah, go ahead.
I think it's both. Like
Yeah.
I think it's you need like I think in this industry you need both the quantity of projects that you have that experience, but also the quality to be able to show that you can do good work, and that you care. So I think it comes both ways, and I think when we talk about what this industry is like, especially as a director who also produces, I'm there every step of the way. But those are different steps. Right? I am writing. I am prepping the shoot. I am shooting the movie. I am editing. I am in the festival circuit. Like, those are different things. I feel like sometimes we forget that as people that, work on all the things simultaneously. And especially when I'm working on 5 different projects at once and they're all in different stages, it's like, oh, well, this and that. I have to remember, oh, those are different things. Right? And so each stage has its own set of boundaries and levels, which we have to remember. But yeah, I think that's super important to also remember, is like, I don't feel like you went against your point there. I think both are valid points. I think just both are, for different things.
And yet, I think one of my personal biggest regrets is not putting enough quantity out into the world. I have always been a crafter, a person who really wants to just. I'm a perfectionist, and that
Sure.
applies to everything I do. And in some ways, I know people have been thankful for that. In other ways, I know it has stopped me from being able to put as much out into the world as possible. And you only have so much time. And I think a newer resolution for me is have a lot out there. Just
Sure.
reach out to different people in the world. That's what it all comes down
Well,
to.
I think Danny is a good start to that.
Yeah.
For sure. And I know we have other stuff that we are talking about, that you want to do, and I think that's one of the things. It's like, this stuff. These podcasts are a lot less. Like we're doing for January. We're doing separate like interview style stuff where we talk about your personal like background specifically. Like
Right.
I love that we have this format for us to be able to talk about films and to be able to talk about what we're currently doing, and what like to kind of pull all the pieces together.
Right.
Because I sometimes feel like, yes, there are filmmaking podcasts out there and I always recommend them to people, but sometimes I don't always know that they're from the perspective of younger people, right? Most people doing these podcasts are in their older, like their late 30s, early 40s, and there's a difference in that. People that I work with in those ages have been in the industry for 10, 15 years. They know what's going on. We haven't as much, right?
No.
We're in this new age, right? Like, these people still worked with film on a regular basis at some point, most likely in college. I haven't. So I think that's a super important perspective. Is like, yeah, there's a whole new rule book out there for how to get in the industry. And I think our experiences are important with that. I think, though, that's a great wrap up to today.
Yeah.
Justin, I'm so excited that we're doing this.
Let's do a whole
really
bunch
am.
more. What?
I can't wait. Next week we'll have some other people on. Let's try to push Mitchell and Keeley for next week.
So
Talk
if
about
the next
USA.
videos come out already, fellas at home, and you don't see their names on it, you know what happens.
Yeah, you got to reach out to them on Twitter or Instagram or one of the other platforms.
Say, we want to hear you.
you know, as always, Cameron Spector official, JM champ, right? That's
Chap? Like chap?
Chap? You're the champ, though. I gotta say you're the champ. I'm just confusing the hell out of everyone. But, you know, hope you have a great rest of your day, you guys, and we'll talk to you soon.
Love y'all.
See you next
See ya.
Bye. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.